One.
Man, this world is getting crazy out here, and we're not even talking about the coronavirus. Let's talk about it on the Wayne Carlen Show. Well, we're back. I'm Wayne.
And I'm Carlen.
And this is the Wayne Carlen Show. And we're going to get right into it this week. You know, we missed a week last week. And since then, we've had a few more possible skin color cases come to light. So this week, we're going to talk about them all.
All right. So we're going to tell you what we got on tap for today. We got three pretty big ones that have been happening recently. We got them on tap. And the first one is, of course, the most public case that's happened right now. And that's the Ahmaud Arbery case. So we'll highlight and update that one. And then we've got the tragic story of the killing of the EMT worker in Louisville, Kentucky. That's Brianna Taylor. And that's a really tragic story, as all of these are, you know, but that one is particularly tragic. And then the third case that we've got is the case that happened outside of Oklahoma City, where a delivery driver was prevented from leaving a community by the Homeowners Association president. And so all of these things have that skin color issue with them. And so we're going to talk about those today. And so that's what we got to cover.
Okay, good. But, you know, before we get into all that, Carlen, you need to review our 7 Days of Giving campaign and tell us what is happening with coronavirus in your part of Texas.
Oh, yeah, we really did. Yesterday, we culminated our 7 Days of Giving campaign here at the American Unity Movement. And it was a great time for everybody to come and participate in our move for unity. Everybody was exhorted to give $1 a day. So that would be $7, because we understand everybody's in a financial crunch during this coronavirus crisis that we're going through. And so, but we still have this cause for unity that we're going to need, because if you haven't noticed, it's getting a whole lot uglier out there on the streets. You know, people, I was in a store last week, the dollar store, and it got so vulgar between this man and this woman. And I was trying to do my best, and I ended up doing nothing physically, but I was doing, I guess you say I was praying, because I was praying, do not let them go further, because it was getting very, very nasty. And so that's what we were doing with our 7 Days of Giving campaign, trying to get support for our movement, to get people to come along, because more than just the financial support, we need the ideological support for people to really come together and say, yeah, let's do something that changes the environment here in our country. So that's what that was about. And you can always still go out to our website and support by getting a t-shirt, or even by giving $1 for the $1 for One Race campaign. You can always do that, because remember, one is our big number. And so, because we're all about oneness here at the American Unity Movement. And so to cover more about what's happening with coronavirus here in the state of Texas, Texas is one of those, and Texas was initially supposed to be the first state to really open up. I think our governor kind of hesitated on that. And so some states have passed us, because when the green light was given, we didn't totally open up. And most of the facilities and institutions, stores and businesses are pretty much doing a little bit more liberal, I guess, than they were during the big part of the crisis. But pretty much everything is still pretty much the way it was. I mean, there are some things like restaurants that were closed and only doing takeout and delivery are now allowing 25% of the patrons to come in, and they got to make sure. I saw one restaurant that passed by, and yeah, there were people outside. The tables were outside because they wanted to be able to accommodate more. And so Texas is pretty much the same. I think we hesitated, and now we're kind of being very cautious, which is probably reasonable. Because I don't think anybody's rushing to get back out to do anything after this virus thing happens. So that's kind of where we are in Texas. And so what's happening out on the West Coast, Wayne?
Yeah, well, you know, we're very similar to what you're saying. I kind of want to go back to something you said about the reaction between this man and woman in the store. I'm seeing a little bit of both of that. I'm seeing some really ugly behavior. I saw something similar to that at Costco, where two men were going at it out in the parking lot. Luckily, they didn't come to blows, but they were just, you know, yelling and cursing at each other over something silly. But at the same time, I'm seeing people step up. I think I mentioned before, I've seen people step up and donate their time, donate their money to people who are less fortunate, people who are hungry, people who can't pay their rent. A lot of people from my local church are just doing some amazing things. And I'm just so excited to see some of the good that's going on. But, we're in the same boat as you guys are. We're still doing restaurants, takeout only. My business is still closed. We can't let people in yet. We're part of that phase 3 with fitness centers and nail salons and other places. So looking forward to hopefully early June, but they won't give us any dates as of right now. So it's a scary time for a lot of businesses. A lot of people are fearing that they'll never be able to open up again. I'm not believing that. I'm believing we're going to open up again, and we'll have even more students who are ready to come in and get that training. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, so Governor Cuomo in New York made this statement that most of the new cases they're getting in New York, and if you know, New York kind of leads the way in all cases, and in addition to that, new cases every day. And they said most of their new cases are coming from people who stayed home.
Wow.
And so they had the experts, quote unquote, look into that and see why that was happening. And a lot of them said that was happening because even though those people were staying at home, they had people coming in and out of their house, or someone would be in and out who would then make contact and bring it to them. And so, yeah, this stay at home really only works, I guess, if you've got everybody doing it. Because once you get one person out, that's really kind of all it takes. But of course, everybody believes, because large majority of American people believe that we were going to have to open up and we've got to do something. But I guess it's that whole thing about how much do you open up and how fast do you open up? And so that's what the contention is with most people. And we're still trying to resolve that. I think, and every one of the states is trying to resolve that. Everybody's doing it a little differently. What's amazing is places like Montana, every day I've been tracking Montana. The most Montana has had in the last 2 weeks has been 2 new cases.
Right.
Each day, which is amazing, And so I guess they must have put up a wall there in Montana and said, y'all stay out. So,
I know a lot of people, and I've been seeing stuff where people saying this is even, I don't know if it was Don Jr. or one of President Trump's sons, and said the whole thing was a hoax. And this was all orchestrated to keep his father from being reelected and all this. And when I hear stuff like that, I get angry because this has really hit home for me. About a month ago, a friend of mine from the neighborhood died. He had pre-existing conditions. But just last week, one of my former students, when he was a young boy, maybe 10, 11 years old, he was a student with mine. So about 20 years ago, he was in a rehab center. On May 1st, he posted that they put someone in his room at this place where he was staying who was coughing, it couldn't stop him from coughing, no mask or anything, just put him in his room. And he wanted to have his room changed. He put this on Facebook for everybody to see. The tragic part about that is 10 days later, he was gone. I don't know what happened to the person who was coughing, but he died of complications. He had pre-existing conditions. In fact, he had been really sick. He had dealt with cancer. He had dealt with all kinds of stuff most of his life. But 10 days later, after them putting somebody in the room, he's gone. So this is very real. This is not a hoax. Sure, there's some people who are using it for political reasons and all that. We understand that. But we still do have to be safe and be mindful of what's going on. People are losing family members.
Yeah, and people need to understand here at the American Unity Movement, because we in fact we do see ourselves as a voice of reason, whether people are making political statements or anything else like that. We're objective about this thing. I mean, we understand that, yeah, there are people, because even if it was, from a leadership perspective, yeah, there'll be a lot of things done so that you're not reelected. That's part of the job that you've got, and it's your challenge to overcome those things. And so real leaders don't mind a challenge. Real leaders don't. I mean, real leaders look for that crucible, that toughness that we've got to go through, and they look for the opportunity to lead us out of darkness into light. That's what real leaders do. So any statement they make about, well, they did this, well, he should say, great. All right, I'll meet the challenge. I'll rise to the challenge. I'll bring the American people together, and we'll come out of that. That's what real leaders do. And I'm not making any statement because I'm not, like I said, I'm apolitical. I really, and people get on me because I'm apolitical. Sometimes they say, well, you should take one side or the other. No, I take the leadership side. And as soon as I find a leader that I feel like is taking the leadership viewpoint, then I'll support them. But right now, it's like so much politics or whatever. And so, but we do need leadership to lead us, I think, out of this. And whenever that shows up, I think we'll be out of it. So it's kind of the way it goes. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about our cases then. Let's talk about our skin color cases now on the Wayne Carlen show this week. All right. Because normally we cover a lot of different aspects, but this week we're going to cover all these cases because there's so many of these cases. And let me put this in perspective, because I think when we say so many of these cases, the point that I think I'm making, being Mr. Objective here, is that we've got media who makes sure that we know about these cases today. I think this has always gone on. I think this stuff like the Ahmaud Arbery case is something that would have happened 10, 15 years ago, and we might not have been privy to it because we might not have had the social media savvy. We might not have had people who could share it. It might have kept being a local thing and not a really big thing. So I think our perspective is that we think that these things are happening more frequently. I think we're aware more frequently. I think we're aware, and now we can take action, which is a good thing too. So that works out. But let's talk about the Arbery case. Wayne, what do you got to say about where we are on that thing now? Because we started out with, we could see LeBron James getting involved. They got arrested, and people starting run with Ahmaud type events. What do you think is happening here?
Well, I've seen a lot of, not a lot, but some new videos have come out. One of the videos that came out was showing that he was allegedly in this place, a couple weeks prior to it. And I think that video, that intent was to show that, see, he wasn't just a jogger. He had more, evil intent. But at the same time, another video came out that showed this other couple, and they appeared to be, a white couple. And so the comparison was made. Well, those people weren't followed. And so, there's still a lot to be uncovered. I know that the GBI is interviewing and investigating. They're trying to get some details on this. And I, in my opinion, whether he was intending, he had bad intentions, evil intentions to take something or not, the result did not meet the crime. At the most, if these guys thought they were, homeowners association types and they wanted to look out for their neighborhood, I have no problem with people looking out for their neighborhood. Neighborhood watch groups are fine. That helps keep crime down. But at the most, they should have just followed him, called 911, said, we're following him. And they did call 911, but followed him. And once the officers arrived, said, officer, that guy is suspicious. Let the officers handle the situation instead of them trying to stop him with a weapon. You try to stop me with a weapon. I don't know who you are. I think you're trying to hurt me. I'm probably going to fight you back and try to get that weapon out of your hand as well, because I'm trained to do that. So, yeah, this case is, like you said before, a real tragic case, and we definitely need to, instill some laws that would stop that kind of thing from happening in the future.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest things out of this will be the fact that because it has gotten the scrutiny that it has, because it has gotten the visibility that it has had in the public, that we will hopefully get everyone a highly scrutinized trial or proceedings, so that and I think that will go a long ways in both our law enforcement departments around the country to ensure that they have proper procedures for the way they deal with these things, and as individuals as well. I think so. This is really enlightening for the American people as a whole, because we will see how much of this stuff does fall down on color lines, how much of it is just a very bad judicial system and very bad actors involved in the system and lack of leadership. So all those things I think come to play. So that's the beauty of these things. If there is a silver lining in something that's negative, that we can hopefully prevent some of these things in the future because of the scrutiny that we've had on this particular case, because when you think of someone, I mean, in every one of these situations, I put myself in each person's position, both the perpetrator and the quote unquote victim. I try to be in each position and understand that viewpoint. And I can see when I look at the video, then I run around the truck. I'm running towards these people and they have weapons. And we don't see anything. And the next thing we see is them engage with each other. When he runs around that truck, we see them engage with. And so there's something that's got to be either very key that happened at that point that's got to be important for us to really put it in proper context. Because if the guy who had the weapon pointed the weapon towards him or made a gesture that would cause him to fear for his life, then it would be reasonable for him to react that way,
Sure. Right.
And it would be a different story if the guy had in the front of the truck, had his back turned to the guy and did not have the weapon pointed at him. And the guy came and jumped on his back or something like that. So no, we don't see that. And so when people begin to conjecture or speculate based on what they think, and there's some key things that we don't know. I think that nobody knows unless there's some video that they've seen that we haven't seen. So those kind of things have to be answered.
I remember one guy saying to me, well, if he didn't do anything wrong, he had no reason to be fearful that something was going to happen to him. And I'm thinking, you missed the point here, buddy. If somebody's coming after you, following you, and I've heard some other reports that they followed him for about 4 minutes, I'm going to be very concerned if somebody's following me and the next thing I see is when they get out of the truck, they're holding a weapon. I'm very concerned and fearful, and I'm thinking my life is in danger. So, but not everyone sees it that way,
Yeah, well, but I'm imagining, though, that they couldn't have been following him for much, or not fearfully, or he was not fearful of them following him, because in the video he's running towards the truck.
Yeah, because the truck was around them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that key thing is going to be what happened when when the part that's not, that we don't capture on video, what happened? Because if you're pointing that weapon at me, and then it's going to be on. You're not going to shoot me without some resistance, when I know that there's no reason for you to shoot me. So, all right. So cool. That was that. Wayne, tell us about the second case we got this week.
So, man, this one is tough. Our second case this week is the tragic case of Miss Brianna Taylor, 26-year-old EMT. She was killed when the police officers entered her residence on a no-knock warrant. Meaning, on a no-knock warrant, they do not have to identify themselves. They can just kick the door down and come right in. She was killed, and her boyfriend, I guess her living boyfriend, was shot and wounded, and he was arrested as well because he had a weapon. He was defending his house, so he fired a weapon. But it's interesting that he wasn't killed and he fired a weapon, but she was. Man, this one is a tough one, Carlen. What do you think about this?
Oh my goodness, from A to Z, we got all kinds of issues on this one. So we'll just cover a couple of them. The first one being is that jurisdiction, that police department, that law enforcement agency there, the guy that they were looking for was already in custody. So you have a failure of communication on their part, because they're looking for a guy who was Jamarcus Glover. He was already in custody. They'd already taken him into custody. So these people were actually going out looking for someone who was already in custody and had been for more than a day. And so they go out, and so that's the issue number one. You got problems inside your agency there with communication. You need to fix that. Terrible. And so that's why I keep saying leadership. Police chiefs have got to start losing their jobs when these things happen like this, all right? Because they're responsible for this kind of thing. And then the second part is a no-knock warrant, which, of course, I had no idea that we have such a thing. My attorney wife educated me on that and what it means, a no-knock warrant. And I went, why do we have such a thing in our society? Because what it says is that police officers have been given the authority to show up without knocking and go in with weapons and do what they've got to do. That's a green light to just go kill people. I don't care if you're looking for a murder suspect, you don't have the right to go in and kill a murder suspect who's asleep in their house. There just can be no rational reason for doing that. So a no-knock warrant is a terrible idea, and I can't believe we have such a thing. And so if we can't fix things like that, then that's a systemic problem, because that's a crazy system. That's a crazy idea that we would have such a thing. And so we don't fix those two things. And then, okay, so then getting down to the fact that you go in and you're shooting because someone was shooting at you, it's very reasonable if someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night and you're asleep for you to return fire. If you were an authorized gun holder, as the young man that was there, he was authorized, and he opened up fire because someone broke into his place. So the argument will be whether they announced what they said or anything else like that. At 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm not sure exactly what time it was, but I know it was late night. At that time of the morning, I know when I wake up and when my wife wakes up, it takes you a few seconds at least to get your bearing.
Right.
And so if you hear something like that, a loud noise, and you're startled and you've got your weapon next to you because that could be a thief or someone coming in to do you harm, that would be a reasonable response. And so a no-knock warrant is just a bad thing, and it causes bad things to happen.
Right. I've served early morning warrants because we do want that element of surprise, but never a no-knock warrant like that, because the situation just didn't, in our opinion, ever warrant because you're right. The results could be tragic. Does it give you an advantage? Yeah, it could give you a great advantage to be able to go in without announcing who you are, especially in a situation where you think is dangerous, or maybe evidence is going to be destroyed quickly. So I can see why some would think it's possible, but everything has to be in line. All the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. The fact that what you said earlier, that the person they were looking for had already been arrested and was obviously in the system, is just horrible negligence on the part of the officer in charge of that case, his leadership, the people above him, everybody. They are all negligent, and they all should have to pay ramifications for what happened to Miss Taylor. So just horrible. She was a public servant, just like them. She worked with police officers all the time. And so did they purposely intend to kill her? No, they did not. But their horrible training and horrible on the job, what they did on the job that night, just ridiculous, and a loss of life that should not have happened.
You know, and it's one of the things I've always felt like, especially when we started getting more informed on these police shootings that have been happening around the country, having served in the Marine Corps and having served in combat zones, that was always my philosophy. I would rather be shot and killed than kill an innocent person. And so I would always tell them, my Marines hated this, and the guys I work with, because I always said, they get the first shot at us so that we know that we are in fact defending ourselves. We are not going to shoot an innocent civilian. And we had some very bad opportunities where that could have taken place. And I was like, no, that is not going to happen. Not when I'm the guy in charge, which I happen to be the guy in charge. I said, that is not going to happen. I would die first than shoot someone who's innocent. And so I think our police officers need to have that mindset, and that needs to be trained in our officers these days. And so that's, once again, our leadership issue, I think.
Yeah, obviously in law enforcement, coming from law enforcement's perspective and now martial arts perspective, I do teach my students that you don't have to wait until somebody attacks you before you defend yourself. If you feel threatened, imminent threatened, like somebody is going to do something, you can strike first. But you have to be able to articulate that and explain why. Not if somebody was 10 feet away from you and said, I'm going to beat you up, you don't run up to them and start beating them. No. But if somebody's in range and they can strike you, and you know that that's about to happen, you can strike first. So in this case, though, and I understand what you're saying, because I'm like you, I would rather than killing somebody or hurting somebody who's innocent of anything, I need to know first that either me or someone else who I love and care for is in danger before I do something like that.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our final case for this week, and this is the case of a delivery driver outside of Oklahoma City, detained in a community by two men because he wouldn't tell them where he had been in their community. And he was on his way out of this residential community, and these men detained him. So that's the next big issue that we've got. And good thing we've got Wayne. Wayne's got some law enforcement background, so he can talk to us about this. Tell us what happened here, Wayne. What's going on?
I don't know what their HOA, Homeowners Association rules. Allegedly, this guy was the president of the HOA. I don't know what their rules are and all of that. But I do know that it's illegal to detain somebody against their will. You are not law enforcement. You don't have a right to stop somebody because you don't like what they look like. You want information from where they've been. That's really none of your business. Again, if you have an issue thinking that he stole something, you better call law enforcement quickly. False imprisonment is a crime. And if you unlawfully detain somebody or falsely imprison them, you can be held accountable to that. Now, I don't know. I know the gentleman, delivery truck driver, did call the police. He was on Facebook Live. He was talking very calmly to the police officers and explaining to them what was going on. I haven't heard, maybe you have, if the police have followed up on this. I'm sure they didn't arrest the gentleman, but I use that term lightly, but I don't think they arrested the men. But he can take them civilly or press charges, and something should be done regarding this.
Yeah, I would really love to. And that was the thing I was wanting. I wanted to hear them speak. And evidently, I don't know, maybe their attorneys told him, don't you say a word, because I really wanted to hear what they would say about what they did. I really would like to, because, of course, I'm the race guy, and we have these forums and where we like dialogue. And so I really want to hear what people's mindset is when they take part in these things and to defend their actions, because I just can't understand what they would say and how they would defend what they were doing unless they say, we were concerned that he was doing what? That he's in the community in a delivery truck. You know, you see a delivery truck. You're concerned that he's doing what? Delivering to someone in your community? Why were you concerned with that? So I would ask some very pointed questions and love to hear their response. And so we don't have that. And so it'll be interesting to see how this comes out in the end, because like you were saying, I think he does have some legal rights and there's some things that he can do legally. And so it'll be interesting to see how this one is resolved.
And the way he handled it is amazing to me, because when I initially saw it, I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to drive around these guys. You know, he would have drove around and he would have messed up their nicely cut grass and all that. And possibly because they were standing in the way, possibly could have injured one of them. So he decided not to do it. He literally handled that more professionally than I would at this stage in my life. I think his company owes him a debt of gratitude because, as a young man, he handled himself very well and under these circumstances.
And that's what I really like to see, because, people can make mistakes. And I think I would judge everything by, did these men have any remorse when they found out that he was in fact delivering to someone there? Did they have any sense of regret about the fact that they had detained him unlawfully? Did they care about that? Because I think that tells a lot about the intents and motives of a person. And so, that's why I think it'll be interesting to really hear them. So I'll be looking for that online to see if we can hear what they're saying about this, or their attorneys. I want to hear what they're saying, because that would tell me everything, I think. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Real quick, I saw another one today that a gentleman who drives for Lowe's and delivers for Lowe's was turned back by a customer because he was Black. And so we'll wait and see. That just happened. We'll wait and see how this turns out later on. It's Lowe's ended up firing his managers for telling him not to deliver the equipment. So we'll see about that next week.
Wow, that's going to be a good one. Yeah, let's get deep into that next week, because I really want to hear about that, Hey, because the American Unity Movement, we're standing in the middle, being a bridge of reason to the polar sides of this country right now. And so we think that we're the voice of reason. You can come here and hear us talk about these things, hear Wayne and I dialogue, and you won't hear us taking sides, but you will hear an objective viewpoint, because we go from the knowledge that we have and from the things that we hear. And so we thank you for being here today. Remember, we've got our 7 days of giving campaign, which just culminated on yesterday. You can always support us and promote the message by giving us $1, going out, buying some of our gear in our Erase store at eraseraces.com. Go check the Erase store and do that. And we thank you for being here. Remember, we're also on Facebook at Erase Races. Thank you for coming this week. See you next time on the Wayne Carlen Show. Now you know. Here we go. Thank Marie Ham for being our director today. She's been in the shadows, but we want to give a shout out to Marie. The director, she has that music playing. She has our